Nice to meet you.
Morning, Excellencies and guests with us in the room and online, because we do have a lot of participants who are online. It's such a pleasure to host you here today and to welcome you to this very important event focusing on the private sector critical role in advancing sustainable development. But first, let me really properly all of you welcome you. We have honorable guests with us today, Dr. Mashhad, Minister of Planning and Economic Development from Egypt, Hatan bin Saman, Senior Advisor, General Supervisor for International Organizations from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, of course, our key partner, Islamic Development Bank, with the Director General, Dr. Isa Fay, Dr. Abdullah Al-Bardari, ambassadors from Morocco, from Turkey, Indonesia, everywhere. Thank you, all protocol observed, and let's kickstart our conversation. I would like to, give you a little bit of opening remarks. We all, know that in 2015, the world came together for the 2030 agenda. Today, 17% of the targets are only on track, right? Not to mention that, we need to observe the ones that are, lagging behind, but the ones that have never been advancing. This is a stark reality, and it is a call for urgent, intensified action. And as the stewards of the SDGs, the United Nations recognized from the start that achieving them would require not just governmental actors, it would demand a new level of collaboration, innovation, and commitment from every sector of the society. The adoption of the Pact of the Future, of course, represents an important step towards stronger and more inclusive multilateral system, one fit to address today's global challenges and accelerate our efforts for sustainable development. And at this stage, the support and the collaboration of all stakeholders, including a leading role for the private sector to ensure that the Pact's ambitions are translated into meaningful change on the ground, are extremely important. Global frameworks such as the Antigua and Barbuda Agenda for SIDS, such as the Rabat Declaration for middle-income countries, such as the BABA Plus 40 outcome documents, such as the Addis Ababa Action Agenda, and I'm sure that the incoming landlocked conference will result in the Gaborone Program of Actions. They all will emphasize the role of the private sector. Businesses bring innovation, businesses bring technical expertise, brings agility, brings financial resources, among other things, all of which are extremely important to address the complex challenges. In an average developing country, the private sector amounts for 60% of the gross domestic product, 90% of jobs, and 80% of capital flows. This is quite considerable. These are figures from OECD, but it's important that we put that so we could look at things into perspective. The micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, both formal and informal, make up over 90% of all firms around the globe. And they are the backbone of the economies, particularly in least developed countries and small island developed states, but also other typologies of countries. Significant barriers, however, still exist, and we need to also see how we can kind of bridge that gap. Institutional and regulatory frameworks often hinder effective public-private partnerships and align private sector actions with long-term development objectives. It remains a challenge. And this is where also South-South and Triangle cooperation can be a game changer in terms of enriching and diversifying development efforts through a variety of flexible cooperation modalities, such as knowledge exchanges, technology transforms, mutual learning, peer-to-peer supports, and innovative financing, establishment of specific and dedicated platforms. We will hear today from the experience of Egypt on that. So we are, as a UN Office for South-South Cooperation, extremely committed to keep bringing and enabling such discussions and such dialogues with the purpose of coming up with concrete and sharing concrete actions, sharing experiences, but also putting forward recommendations for important incoming conferences such as the Financing for Development that will be coming up hopefully next year. And I think that will be a key and an important conference to set the pace in terms of supporting financing for all the countries. So very happy and pleased that you are joining us today. And without further ado, I want to also welcome again our co-organizer and partner, the Islamic Development Bank, Dr. Issa Faye. I know he is also very cognizant of the time of everybody, but he would like to give you the floor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning, colleagues and friends. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the second edition of the 2024 Global Advocacy Dialogue Series, focusing on leveraging the private sector to strengthen the global South. I'm very pleased to have you, and I'm honored because we know that you were all busy. You're running between different meetings, but I'm glad to see that you came and for this very important debate. And actually, we are trying, and I'm very pleased about the cooperation that we are having with the UN Office of South-South Cooperation. It has been a long-standing relationship. We are very proud. It's reaching new heights now. And this is the second, actually, of this kind of dialogue. We had in March 2023 with the government of Portugal, the first dialogue series that was around accelerating sustainable development as an important bridge between South-South and North corporations. Today, we are trying to bring a very important actor, as you said, which is the private sector. We all know the role that the private sector is playing in our economies, and we need to continue bringing in, not as an afterthought. Sometimes we do our things between partners and development community, and then we forget about the private sector. But this is really for us a way to bring them as key partners into this endeavor and try to see how we can really harness the power of South-South and triangle cooperation. So I hope that we're going to have very impressive deliberations and key recommendation and action, because we're looking for impact, we're looking for really concrete things to do, not just a conference, another seminar. Please give us your thoughts, let's think together, and then make sure that we can get it on together. So without delay, I'll just let us start.
Thank you very much, Dr. Issa. Our first keynote speaker is Her Excellency Dr. Rami Al-Mashar, Minister of Planning, Economic Development and International Cooperation of Egypt. Her Excellency has been a leading voice in advancing Egypt's Vision 2030, especially in fostering private sector collaboration. And we look forward to hearing from her about how Egypt is integrating the private sector into its national sustainable development strategies and how international cooperation plays a key role in facilitating private sector investment across the region. I have to mention that she is also spearheading and advocating for South-South cooperation within Egypt, within the region, and beyond. So, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Dima. I'm very happy to be here at this meeting because we always meet in different international fora, but I've never been to the offices here, so I'm happy that the Office of South-South Cooperation is hosting this. Let me first maybe mention that this has been a very significant week. I know from our colleagues in the permanent mission and others that it wasn't easy to come up with a text that has consensus in a time where multilateralism is being doubted and there are many signs that we are retracting rather than progressing. So this is very important in the sense that there is a negotiated document that explains and shows and highlights some of the very urgent objectives, not just for emerging markets, developing markets, and low-income countries, but also for the world at large. And therefore, as we are moving forward, it is really everybody working together to be able to achieve, whether it's the SDGs by 2030, whether it's climate action, whether it's more in terms of entrepreneurship and employment. So all the objectives that each one of us being here is trying to achieve, whether on a national level, on a regional level, on a multilateral level. I think it was a very significant week in that sense. A few thoughts that come to mind. In order to move forward on development or climate, and I don't want to make that distinction because we're trying to say that climate and development are not mutually exclusive, but they come hand in hand. This is extremely important in identification because whether we're trying to reach climate ambition or trying to achieve different SDGs, public money alone won't work, private sector alone won't work, MDB money alone won't work. So this is where the leveraging and the alliances between the different stakeholders becomes extremely important. Now, of course, this is not a new idea. We've been hearing about this for many, many, many years. And I think what is significant about South-South cooperation is the ability to highlight examples which have worked, so that when we say scaling and replication, it is not just a sentence in a report, but it's actually a deliverable that can be cross-border, that can be replicated, as I mentioned, in other places. A few examples that I want to provide. In Egypt, in preparation for COP27, and COP27 at the time in Sharm el-Sheikh, this was November 22nd, 2022, our theme was from pledges to implementation. So at that time, I mean, today there's going to be a new accounting for the climate needs, but let's take the 100 billion that were mentioned in Copenhagen, and then our COP was from pledges to implementation. And the idea at that time was, at Glasgow the year before, private sector was provided more tools through blended elements, be it from philanthropy or multilateral development banks, to de-risk in order to crowd in private sector into particularly emerging markets. So in preparation for our COP, the COP theme was from pledges to implementation. We wanted to provide a country example of how we can actually move from pledges to implementation. So a few things were important for us. Number one, to come up with a national strategy, a strategy that included climate and development hand in hand. And therefore, our 2050 country climate strategy, when you read it, you would see that each and every objective on the climate side is interlinked with the SDGs. It's also projects in sectors which are across the country. So governorates are included. So this idea of localization is there as well. So this 2050 country climate strategy was key for us to basically show that climate action and development are not separate tracks, but they come hand in hand. The second point was the debate that was ongoing and still is ongoing, that countries in the global south or developing and emerging countries do not have bankable projects. There's not a pipeline of projects. So you might have the supply of funds, but the bankability of projects is not there, and therefore the matching doesn't happen. So we also wanted to show that out of the 2050 climate strategy, we have a number of priority projects, which include mitigation and adaptation. So the energy transition is there, and also food and water security are there. And these are projects which the country very clearly sees them as priorities. They are not going to be implemented by the government, but they are ready for the private sector to come in, particularly on the renewables, and use this list of bankable projects to be able to mobilize financing that is concessional to bring in private sector. So we put together a country platform, the nexus of water, food, and energy. In Arabic, it is pronounced as Nuwafi. Nuwafi means fulfilling promises. So this is where from pledges to implementation comes in. And what we've been able to do with this country platform, it's like a JETP in Indonesia or in South Africa, the Just Energy Transition Platforms. But this one is country-led. We are very specific about the projects. And given that I was minister, I still have Minister of International Cooperation, I've been able to leverage the partnerships with the Islamic Development Bank, with the Arab funds, with the World Bank, with the African Development Bank, with EBRD, and many others, so that from a country perspective, you are able to see the complementarity between partners. This type of partnership is not just in terms of concessional loans, but there are grants, there's capacity building. We have a debt swap for the energy transition with Germany. So it's a very important tool because it shows government commitment, clarity with respect to projects, and we leverage on our credibility with all our partners. Also, the UN is with us on several of these projects. This is a very good example. We've been able to deliver on financing from the private sector, which has been leveraged through also concessional finance from many MDBs. And today, with Tanzania, for instance, we are providing through South-South cooperation or triangular cooperation, lessons learned on how to put together a country platform. What does it need? What does a country need to put together a country platform for climate action? This is one example. Another example, to bring in private sector in countries. And here, when we talk about private sector, it's the big corporates, they're the SMEs, and also the startups. So private sector sometimes is, when we think of it, it's always the big companies. But one of the key elements for emerging markets is that private sector with its different sizes also needs sometimes technical advice and concessional lending, which is cheaper than the market. So we put together all the services that are provided by all development partners, be it bilateral or multilateral in the country, in one platform. It's called Hafiz. Hafiz means in Arabic incentivize, but this is the hub for technical advisory and financial services for private enterprises. It's AI empowered, so the company can go in, it can say its field, what it wants, and then matchmaking can happen, and we have a team to follow up. So this is a very practical example of how to create access of different types of financing for private sector that needs to move forward in the economy, which is extremely important, as you mentioned, 60% of GDP and so forth, and 80% of employment. So these are two very practical examples that can be replicated. Another one is a presidential initiative, the Decent Life Initiative, or Haya Karima. All of us are talking about leaving no one behind. And leaving no one behind means that the development plans need to reach some of the most in need in terms of rural areas. So this is an initiative, 4,500 villages across the country, where infrastructure gaps are being met and human capital development gaps are being met. So this is also one that today we are helping other African countries do the same. So there are so many examples that I hope the office can shed light. We can have, and we, with UNDP, we have a South-South Academy where we also presented this. Dr. Abdallah was with us in Sharm el-Sheikh when we provided a presentation on many of these initiatives. And it is as I mentioned, the work we do with UNDP, the work we do with other UN agencies, they take time in terms of crystallizing the concept notes. And when you crystallize concept notes, it means it's not just a document to pass by boards or in cabinet, but these are documents that have a lot of analytical thinking, policy dimensions. So it's important not to just waste them, but to actually use them in other cases. So I hope that there can be a way where on a website or every quarter there could be a call for to familiarize different countries with different examples in by region, across regions, so that and the conference is coming up in Portugal as well, where it's going to be a very good opportunity to push this forward. Of course, when there is a good example, that's when the private sector or philanthropic money can come in, because they want, there are these pockets of money, but they want to see projects that have had impact. And so if we are able to show the impact in many of these different initiatives or different programs or different platforms, I think that we will be knocking on an open door to mobilize additional from different institutions or private sector arms to be able to push it forward. Finally, adaptation is a very important topic. It's very important for Africa. It's very important for us particularly. given the water resources we have, and given the importance of food security. And again, there are so many learnings from other continents that can be also leveraged. We've been able to provide with you and with UN and with UNDP many workshops and trainings for different countries. We have ministers coming from different countries to basically also visit some of the projects we have. We will continue to do this, but I just wanted to take this opportunity to say or to advertise some of the work that includes private sector in the development work we are doing. And just 2 days ago, we were hosted by UNDP. Dr. Abdallah put together, assembled his whole team because there are so many interlinkages when we talk about how to quantify development, how to think about development beyond just indicators, but the qualitative element of all of this. So there's so much work we can do. So much, there's just not enough time to do all of this. But I think that we are in a better place today in terms of tools, in terms of modalities that have worked. So let's try to advertise them more. Let's try to replicate them more, and let's try to show impact so you can actually leverage the private sector. And that is extremely fundamental for us to go through this journey in the years ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Excellency, for really, sharing with us concrete and concrete actions of engagement. The 3 platforms that you mentioned are extremely important, and this is something that we will be featuring on our digital platform, Galaxy. Our KM team is here and taking note of that. So in the coming days, hopefully, with your team, it will be up there for sharing information and to be able to make it available across the board. And all the points you mentioned are extremely important. Triangular cooperation, extremely important. In Portugal, we will be launching the Triangular Cooperation Window, hopefully, so that will be an opportunity to collaborate. Let me move to our next keynote speaker, Mr. Hattan bin Samman. He is the senior advisor, and he is the senior advisor, of course, to the Minister of Economy and Planning, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. He is also the supervisor for international organizations within the ministry, and with whom we have been having a long-standing partnership. So we're very pleased to have you with us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dima. Thank you for having us, and thank you for organizing this along with Dr. Isa. I'm so happy to be here with you, and good morning, everyone. I just wanted to start. I have a statement that I wanted to share with all of the details. So if you allow me, esteemed Excellencies, the distinguished guests, it is an honor for me to be representing the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in this high-level panel discussion. Today, we gather to explore critical role of private sector in driving sustainable development in the global south. But I want to start by saying that the Islamic Development Bank has been instrumental strategic partnership in Saudi Arabia's global development journey. Throughout our triangular cooperation, we have successfully implemented numerous projects that have had profound impact globally. Today, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is committed in strengthening South-South cooperation as means of promoting sustainable development and fostering mutual prosperity. We believe that collaboration among developing countries can lead to more equitable and inclusive growth. Through our partnership with the UN Office of South-South Cooperation and other nations in Global South, we are sharing knowledge, technology, and best practices to address common challenges. We have embarked on a transformative journey towards a sustainable future. Our nation recognizes the urgent need to balance economic growth and environmental stewardship and social progress. Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030 is a comprehensive economic and social reform plan that aims to diversify the economy, reduce dependence on oil, and improve the quality of life of its citizens. A key pillar of this vision is the promotion of private sector growth. The Saudi government has implemented numerous initiatives to create a favorable business environment, attract foreign investment, and foster entrepreneurship. We have made significant strides in implementing policies and initiatives that align with SDGs, and the private sector has played a pivotal role in this endeavor. We have mainstreamed sustainable development in policies and legislative frameworks. The SDGs were adopted as Saudi Arabia was drafting its own Vision 2030. We were mainstreamed and aligned with the expected outcomes of the vision. Our program and projects that have stemmed out of the vision have a focus on sustainable development, and ongoing alignment is ensured. Today, Saudi Arabia boasts a thriving private sector, with companies that are making significant contributions to sustainable development, both domestically and internationally. Our public investment fund and Tadawul Group, regional volunteer carbon market company, aim to scale up global supply and demand to deliver vital climate finance to the global south and support global net zero goals. That reflects KSA focus on innovation and commitment to develop countries' green economy by providing significant investment opportunities for the private sector. It aligns with our commitment to net zero by 2060 and Vision 2030 for sustainable economic reform blueprint. Recognizing the importance of private sector role in driving the sustainable development agenda, a national corporate sustainability program was launched last year under the leadership of the Ministry of Economy and Planning of Saudi Arabia. This program aims to accelerate the sustainability journey of Saudi corporates and enhance the rate of sustainability reporting and adoption in the kingdom's corporate ecosystem. It is a knowledge transfer and partnership program where we identified 19 leading corporates in the kingdom to support other companies in their sector and value chains to support them in their sustainability journey. By now, 60 additional companies have been onboarded as part of this program, who will start accelerate their sustainability journey because of this program. This program shows the power of establishing partnership and leveraging national strengths and champions. We believe that public-private partnership are key to achieve sustainable development as platforms. As such, the one provided by the UN Office of South-South Cooperation. And this is essential for fostering collaboration among government, business, civil society, and academia. By bringing those stakeholders together, these partnerships enable collective problem solving and joint decision-making. This collaborative approach ensures diverse perspectives and considers we will lead sustainable solutions to complex global challenges. In conclusion, Saudi Arabia is committed to playing a leading role in supporting sustainable development in the global south. Through our Vision 2030, the contributions of our private sector and our active engagement in the South-South cooperation, we are making positive impact on the lives of millions of people around the world. We look forward to continuing working with our partners to create a more just, equitable, and sustainable future for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bin Salman, for sharing with us the Kingdom's Vision 2030 main achievement on sustainable development, but also concrete actions and undertaking and the promotion and the track and the history of the Kingdom in terms of advancing South-South cooperation is extremely well noted. We look forward to continuing this collaboration also on the triangular cooperation front, because I believe the Kingdom has also a lot of technical expertise to share. Thank you very much. And with this, we conclude this segment. I would like to pass on the mic now for the next segment for the fantastic moderation of Dr. Isa. Thank you very much. So the floor is yours for the next.
Thank you very, very much.
Yes.
Are we going to change settings?
Yes.
No, thank you. Just wanted to say a few words while we're changing that. I'm very glad, Dr. Atan, for your contribution and for the work we are doing with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, who is hosting us. We are working with you with this program of South-South called Saudi as a House of Expertise. So we are trying to leverage their technical expertise and knowledge to bring it to other member countries. So thank you for that. And Minister, thank you for your cooperation, for your support. We have been a big support of the Islamic Development Bank in many, many areas. I noticed very important thing that you said. I think we need, oftentimes we think of the private sector as just a provider of financing of knowledge, but they need also advisory services. They need also constitutional funding. They need credit enhancement and so on and so on. So this is really, really important message that we take on board. Impact is another measure that we mentioned that is very important as we concretize some of the ideas that we discussed here. Thank you very much, all. And let me now turn to my next panel. I would like to invite my colleagues to the podium. Excellency Ambassador Tri Tariat, Deputy Minister of Multilateral Cooperation and Minister of Foreign Affairs, Republic of Indonesia. Excellency Ambassador Mr. Mohamed Metkal, Director General Morocco Agency for International Cooperation, and Excellency Ambassador Mrs. Isin Altuq, Director General for Multilateral Economic Affairs, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Turkey, and Mr. Dear friend, Mr. Abdullah Dardari, Assistant Secretary General and Director of the UNDP Regional Bureau of Arab States. Now, I'm very glad to moderate this session because I mean you heard the keynotes and the remarks from our honorable guests that just finished. Now we will try with this panel actually to try to discuss the models of cooperations for the SDG progress. How can we now move from this statement to some model that we can operationalize? So that's in a nutshell what we're going to try to discuss in this panel. So I'm glad to have all of you here. Let me start with Morocco. I would like to turn to you, Ambassador Mohamed Metkal, Director General of the Moroccan Agency for International Cooperation. Since 2016, Ambassador, you have led Morocco's international cooperation effort, focusing on global and South-South collaboration and coordinating humanitarian aid and development projects. The list is long. I'm just going to leave it at that. Morocco has a strong track record in fostering South-South cooperation. We have many, many projects at the bank where Morocco is one of our partners, delivering technical expertise, resources, knowledge, and so on. Ambassador, could you share the AMC's role in public-private partnership for sustainable development and how Morocco has fostered effective public-private collaboration to address the broader challenges of our time, climate change, infrastructure, job creation, and so on. And if you could add to that, how can countries in the global south create an enabling environment for private sector investment sustainability? You have 7 minutes, and thank you.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank you and Office of South-South Cooperation and Islamic Development Bank for this initiative. It's a pleasure to be with you here to present King of the World. First of all, I would like to mention that His Majesty King Mohammed VI, since 1999, has made South-South Cooperation as a major pillar of our foreign policy, where Africa is priority and where all the initiatives, program, and projects are developed toward this vision place the human element in the center. So the human element is a core component of all our programs that Kingdom of Morocco is developing. Second, in this vision, through the leadership of His Majesty, is committed personally by promoting and developing South-South cooperations and Morocco's relations with foreign countries. He has made more than 50 visits in the last 25 years in African countries. More than 30 countries have been visited. More than 1,000 agreements have been made. A lot of projects have been developed in African countries. But also national dynamic has been emerged in Morocco, belongs to this vision of His Majesty the King, that gets involved in this vision. This triptych, which is having involved public sector as public policy, but also private sector and the civil society. We are having in Morocco now, for many years, national ecosystem with all these type of actors that are engaged in this vision, and they are developing programs, cooperation, but also actions. We have, when we get back on the private sector, we have Moroccan banks. They are in top three in the three Moroccan banks are in the top 10 financial banking in Africa. They are present in more than 25 countries. We have other companies in agriculture, but also in insurance, in energy, in information technology, in transport infrastructure, and so on. All these, as I said, all these companies are developing programs to promote South-South cooperation. Moroccan International Agency for International Cooperation is one of the main actors that are involved in this in the implementation of this vision. And we have developed public-private partnership with all these institutions, either the ones in the public sector, but also the other in the private sector, and also civil society. We have all our programs are targeting the human element in the center. They are based in sharing the expertise with those partner countries, and they are placing the Moroccan knowledge that we have developed in the last decades. So we have programs in agriculture, in renewable energy, in climate change, infrastructure, in entrepreneurship. Let me go to some programs that we developed also with international partners to support those initiatives in triangular cooperation. So we have one of our major partners is the Islamic Development Bank, with whom we are developing three types of programs that are targeting foreign students from Africa that comes to Morocco to pursue their higher education studies. We have another program based on a specific mechanism of the AISDB, which is a reverse linkage mechanism. And through this mechanism and the financial support of Islamic Development Bank and its partners, we have developed a project in partner countries where we have programs in energy in Comoros, in water in Guinea. We used to have before programs in health in Djibouti, in water in Burkina Faso, and so on and so on. So we capitalize on this national ecosystem that Kingdom of Morocco developed under the leadership of His Majesty to share Moroccan expertise to our partners that I said are coming from public, private, but also from the civil society. I think as a main conclusion on this vision that His Majesty is developing toward South-South cooperation by having an contribute to accelerating the African and emerging Africa, is first is to have strong leadership and vision to develop this South-South cooperation. Second is to be committed in the implementation. So it's not only about having the vision, but it's on the implementation. As I said, for the case of Morocco, His Majesty is personally involved in the implementation of this commitment. And third, it is through the public-private partnership that are developed through this national ecosystem that we have created now for more than 25 years, in the last 25 years in Morocco. And fourth, which is important, is to have concrete programs that are implemented through those such a partnership. And those programs, as I said, IMCI, which is the initiative I'm leading now since 8 years, are developing such program. Let's say we have a program in the academic cooperation with the public national universities in Morocco. Currently, we are hosting this year about 18,000 foreign students, among which 16,000 are coming from 49 African countries in Morocco. Those students are benefiting from Moroccan scholarship, and they are spared in the 12th region of Morocco, in south of Morocco, in north, all the region that are benefiting from it. And those students are also having access to an entrepreneurship program we have developed with the Moroccan Bank, which is already present in Africa, which is Tijari Wafa Bank, and that we take this opportunity to thank them for their for the partnership they are supporting through us in order to let those students identify business idea, transform it from business ideas to business startups, and also to work with them on a day-to-day basis through their entrepreneurship centers. We have other program in agriculture targeting food security also, and with other institutions such as OCP Group, which is one of the worldwide leading producer of fertilizer that works with farmers and small farmers. So there is an important program that we have here. We have also other programs with civil society. So I think the four dimensions that Morocco developed, and as I said, are, how we said, recommendations that we think from our side can really contribute to foster and to strengthen South-South cooperation towards partner countries. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ambassador Mohammed, for these very inspiring words. I took note that there are a couple of things that are important if we want to deliver impact. We need to have political will. We need to have national ecosystem, the institutional arrangement that helps deliver, and let's be concrete and implement. So thank you for that. Let me now turn to Ambassador Sri Tariat, right? Yes, Mr. Ambassador is a Deputy Minister of Multilateral Cooperation at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia. Ambassador Tariat is a career diplomat with over 30 years of experience serving in roles ranging from consular to multilateral affairs. So, Ambassador, Indonesia has made significant progress in fostering regional and international cooperation for sustainable development, particularly through this initiative, Making Indonesia 4.0. I would really like to understand what was this whole initiative was about and how it has helped really foster South-South and triangular cooperation. We look forward to hearing from you more about the strategic partnership and public-private sector involvement, and more importantly, what are the lessons from the Bali Forum that was held in Indonesia last time? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dia, and let me take this opportunity to thank UNOSSC for convening this very important meeting and for inviting me to share our views. So for Indonesia, South-South Triangular Cooperation is a symbol of empowerment for Global South. By aligning our comparative advantages, Global South can move forward with its development. So to realize this goal, we believe firmly that the government should engage private sector. 3 weeks ago, Dr. Dia just mentioned, we convened a high-level forum on multi-stakeholder partnership. So one of the key outcomes of this forum was a shared understanding on the importance of promoting equitable and mutually beneficial cooperation while advancing multi-stakeholder partnership. The forum also promotes the CSR and sustainable business practices and asks companies to integrate SDG targets into their business models. More than 1,000 participants attended the forum, and we were very happy for the positive feedback coming from the participants. So just to give you an example on this practice, that Indonesia and Organization of Islamic Cooperation for the past 3 years organized what we call the Fellowship for Research and Advanced Training in Biology and Vaccines Technologies in close cooperation with our private sector, Bio Farma, and Indonesian pharmaceutical company. So, Doctor, for your second question, I believe that regulatory barrier or different priorities among wide range of government actors may hinder the planning and effective execution of SSTC. So to address this, we enacted several regulations. First, series of presidential regulations on grant for foreign governments and organizations that creates an interagency mechanism to study and prepare development cooperations with foreign governments and organizations. It also streamlines our internal procedures while making sure the cooperation fits into our national capacity and the needs of our partners. So there have been dialogues in this process. The regulation also lay down the collaboration mechanism with our foreign partners, notably for the negotiation of grant agreements, its execution, and reporting. Secondly, in 2019, the Indonesian government officiated Indonesian Agency for International Development, or in short, we call it IndoAid, which manages the development cooperation funds for various projects, including infrastructures, capacity building, and humanitarian assistance. The Indo-Aid works in collaboration with several ministries, including Foreign Ministry, Finance Ministry, State Secretariat, and the Ministry for National Development. We are also in the process of developing a grand strategy for development cooperation with a special emphasis on several priority regions. So, Excellencies, on the last question, I wish to underscore the initiative called Making Indonesia 4.0. It integrates new technologies and innovation into our industrial sectors, and also on the role of private sector in economic development and attainment of SDGs. The Making Indonesia 4.0 roadmap and PPP are essential components of our commitment to utilizing private sector in sustainable development. Among others, it also put emphasis on focuses on enhancing our manufacturing and services through digital transformation that encourages innovation in sectors such as agriculture, manufacturing, and logistics, which can lead to sustainable practices and improved efficiency. It also emphasizes the need for a skilled workforce capable of navigating digital economy in collaboration with private sector, as well as involving the local communities in the planning and execution processes to ensure that infrastructure development meets local needs and enhances social benefits. By enhancing the cooperation with private sector, we aim to create a resilient, innovative, and inclusive economy that contributes to sustainable development. In conclusion, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I look forward to collaborating and sharing our experiences and best practices with other global South countries. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ambassador, for this very insightful presentation. And then this Indonesia program is really, you're putting your fingers on what the private sector can bring. For example, digital transformation, skills, technology transfer, innovation. And then PPPs need to be there to make sure that the government put the enabling environment with a regulatory framework that helps really cooperate and deliver. Thank you for those words. Now I'm turning to Ambassador Ihsan Altun, Director General of International Economic Affairs at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Turkey. Ambassador Altun is a seasoned diplomat with nearly 40 years of experience, having held key roles in international economic affairs, migration, and multilateral relations. Ambassador, Turkey has been proactive in fostering impactful public-private partnerships, including innovative platforms like the SDG Impact Accelerator, which have attracted several private sector partners in Turkey. We have also benefited from Turkey as the Islamic Development Bank, working a lot with you, and then we have been having a lot of program and project across Africa, bringing knowledge and expertise through TICA. I would like to know if you could share how this initiative aligns with both national and international development priorities, and how Turkey engages the private sector, particularly the small and medium enterprises.
Thank you very much, distinguished participants, Madam Director, Madam Minister, dear colleagues, good morning to all. Yes, first, I would like to thank you for your kind invitation. I, of course, would like to briefly explain Turkey's approach with some concrete examples and different models of cooperation. And we are all here for the UN General Assembly. And this year's signature event is the Summit of the Future. So it affects all of us. The summit recognizes the deep trouble we are all in and the urgent needs for the reform of global governance. And yesterday, we, the G20 countries, endorsed a call to action on global governance reform. So we need to recognize the current state of reality. Today, we are going through turbulent times, deep geopolitical divides, conflicts, wars, impact of the climate change, growing inequalities, poverty. As Madam Director already said that we are off track to achieve the SDGs. So what we need is to governments, the private sector, international organizations, and societies, we have to work together to address the root causes of current and future challenges. So how is Turkey doing on these issues? First, it is, for our foreign policy, it is a priority for us. These LDCs, these developed countries. Turkey is a long-standing and reliable partner of the LDCs. Besides our bilateral cooperation mechanisms, we also collaborate with relevant UN institutions. For instance, we have a strategic partnership with the UNDP. UNDP has national, regional, and global offices in Turkey. Accordingly, we develop projects and partnerships at all levels. For instance, as a part of Turkey UNDP Partnership in Development Program, we have worked with UNDP's regional office in Istanbul. And in the second phase of this program, it was made between 2019-2021, we have undertaken projects in 5 least developed countries, namely Angola, Benin, Democratic Republic of the Congo, Laos, and Rwanda. We finance projects in different areas such as renewable energy, smart governance, gender equality, vocational training, and youth employment in these countries. UNDP's also Istanbul International Center for Private Sector in Development is another close partner. And today I see the director, Mr. Sobhani, is with us. We have really very good close cooperation. So in close cooperation with all these relevant institutions, we support and facilitate the center's work and contribute to South-South cooperation, particularly in vulnerable countries. Another issue that you raised, the SDG Impact Accelerator is also a pilot project that we initiated in 2019. It is also an interesting initiative. Partnering with the UNDP and private sector, we have looked for innovative solutions focused on addressing development challenges faced by displaced population. For its first phase, SDGI focused on 2 most pressing issues, namely sanitation and personal identification. And I can give you an example that it was very, successful in Bangladesh. We made it for agriculture. Agriculture is a very, very important, I think, for the LDC sector. So we have to find innovative solution. We have to focus the development of agricultural tools, because we are facing with food security all over the world. So we have to give our emphasis to this agriculture sector, especially also in Africa. It's very important. Digital agriculture in Uganda. And we made financial inclusion projects in Bangladesh. So these 2 pilot projects prove that even with humble funding opportunities, we can find innovative solutions to big challenges. When I say innovative solutions and bridging digital gap between developed countries, developing countries, and the least developed countries, we have in Turkey, we are hosting the UN Technology Bank for LDCs. This is a UN entity, and it has been established only with this purpose, to establish the digital gap between developed and LDCs. And it is the first and the only SDG target to be achieved well in advance of 2030. And it's a subsidiary organ of the UN Assembly. We support the bank's low-cost by high impact projects in different sectors. For instance, in Gambia, they, I think, have a project for improving the quality of nuts and reduce the current post-harvest losses experienced along the value chain and the transfer of post-harvest technology that we use for nuts. This is just one example. And of course, you know, I have to emphasize that in Turkey, we have Turkish Coordination and Development Agency, TİKA, has a great presence all over the world with almost 60 offices, particularly in Africa. So this is an asset we could utilize to support vulnerable countries. And when we check the projects of TİKA, their studies, we see that how development cooperation can make real changes in people's daily lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador, for those very interesting comments. Just wanted to highlight few of them that you mentioned that are important. This innovation and solutions is important as we do this, bringing the digital, bridging the digital divide. But most importantly, you reminding us also that we should leverage South-South cooperation for fragility and conflicts. It's mentioning the refugees, very good example. And in food security, another challenge of our time. So thank you for saying that. But I have one comment that I'll come back to you later. How do you bring the private sector into all of this? This is a second question for you, but let me go to my friend Abdallah first, and then we can come back to you. Abdallah, thank you.
Thank you very much. What shall we say after all this? I mean, there's not much left to say.
Counting on you.
So, okay. We in the Arab region are facing the productivity challenge. And that productivity, according to our analysis, comes from a number of elements: high informality, low participation of formal private sector, low component of technology, research and development, and low level of regional and global integration. These are just some of the challenges we are facing. So we have to work at the country level, and I think the integrated national financing framework is an excellent example of how we can bring financial flows from the private sector, public sector. We celebrated the launch of Egypt's national integrated financial strategy the other day, and that's a perfect example of what we can do at the policy level to harness private financing, public policy, fiscal policies into one direction of growth. But at the same time, we noticed that the 50% of entrepreneurs who are mostly informal and mostly now hopefully coming into the digital age don't have the tools that allow them to grow and prosper. And this is the future. The future is in the millions who don't have access to finance and who don't have access to technology. And therefore, we ask ourselves a question: what is the financing mechanism of somebody who has a mobile phone and a cloud account? What bank who is willing to invest in that person? Especially if they are informal. So the definition of informality requires revisiting. And the definition and the mechanisms and the regulatory frameworks of finance, not just looking at the new international financial structure, which is happening and is a must, but also looking at the micro level. How can we reach those people? So UNDP is working across countries, regions, and intra and inter-regionally in order to bring those experiences and harness the power. There is fantastic experiences in Malaysia and Indonesia. There is a lot of things happening in Egypt and Saudi Arabia, as you could see. There is a great experience happening in Turkey. What we are doing practically now is supporting at the macro level stronger regional integration, As I said, the INFFs are one way, but also stronger regional integration. And we believe it's time to move from the free trade area into the Arab Customs Union. That will give us additional $34 billion a year to Arab GDP every year for the next 5 years. If we just move from the free trade area to the Arab Customs Union. With that, we are creating what we call the Arab Green Finance Framework and Platform, which is mainly to reach those millions who usually cannot be reached through conventional banking. We are creating the Digital for Sustainable Development Platform in order also to reach those millions and provide digital public infrastructure that usually don't reach those millions that are actually the next generation of economic growth in the region. And we want those platforms to link Arab youth with African youth, with Asian youth, because they can do regional and cross-regional integration, even without waiting for us in governments to start those small projects, but cross countries and cross continents. So our aim is to provide these platforms, is to come up with new innovative financing ways for those young people to have that access, while supporting governments in their macro policies to ensure their fiscal spaces, sustainability, and their green and circular growth and inclusive growth in the years to come. So that's our thinking, and that's what we are trying to do. And we think it's a partnership, and therefore the South-South office, in fact, is a tremendous tool for the UN and for UNDP to be able to spread our wings, as we say, and make sure that we reach every young man and woman. And lastly, one of the main reasons why we are not competitive is the low participation of women. According to our assessments, the Arab region is losing 20% of its GDP every year because of the low participation of women. Imagine, Your Excellency, know more than I do, how much we need to invest to boost GDP by 20% every year. Including women in the economy is actually a low-cost, high-impact way of inclusive growth and sustainable growth. So this is how we are looking at the situation and how we will work with all the partners in this room and others in order to address those challenges. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much. Abdullah, I'm sorry I didn't introduce you. For those who, I saw that he doesn't need introduction. Everybody knows him. That's why I did not introduce him. But if you don't know him, Abdullah is the Assistant Secretary General and Director of UNDP Regional Bureau for Arab States. He's a long friend and in doing fantastic work with UNDP. So thank you, Abdullah. But just few things to cut from your commentary. I think the power of regional cooperation is there. And then how can we use regional cooperation to innovate in terms of financing? How can we look at differently our way of underwriting a credit for SMEs? And this very interesting point of finding new ways of really financing that I believe the conventional banking sector doesn't know how to finance SMEs. And we need to find solution to that. That's very important. Digital public infrastructure at the regional level that will help for connectivity is another important point that you made. And last but not least, inclusion. Women should be part of the solution. So thank you very much for that. Now I will turn to our discussion. We have a second part of this panel. A couple of colleagues who come in and then share also their thoughts. Let me then thank my colleagues, my panelists for your participation and contribution. And I'll have some of my discussion here around. Or maybe you can just take it from the room. We can do it from the room, Dima, right?
Yes.
For the discussion. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you.
You asked me the private sector.
Yeah, let me, let me give you, while our colleagues are sitting, let me give Ambassador the floor to give us a commentary on the private sector.
First, of course, this is a national policy of Turkey, supporting LDCs. And also, as I have already told you, it's a priority for our foreign policy. So private sector also gets interest in it. And because they know when there is a project, when they are involved, the private sector, it's a win-win situation. It opens the private sector new avenues of business. So we have to always include private sector, and we have this UNDP private sector center. So I'm sure that Mr. Sobhani will give you more details on this. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. So yeah, now we will move to our discussions. But to set the scene, I have just a couple of questions to you, and then you can react to them.
Okay.
How can the private sector companies apply insights from today's discussion to enhance the contribution to sustainable development? Will be one question. Second, what strategy can they adopt to collaborate with government and other institutions? And third, what additional support or resources do companies, particularly from the global south, would need? So that's some just questions that you can reflect on. And to start with, well, I'll invite Madam Amina, Group Chief Executive Officer and founder of Surinai. We work together. I visited Malaysia. I know exactly what she's doing, but I let her tell you the fantastic work she's doing there.
She needs the mic.
Thank you very much. It's really an honor to be here. Leaders, sir, you're the one that been very pivotal in supporting us in the reverse linkage. So for the private sector, indeed, this what we discussed today, the impact to the society, you need the private sector, indeed. And today I'm very happy that a lot of my colleagues, the private sectors, are here to support this initiative, especially now with the Islamic Bank Bank and the United Nations, OSSC is working together to create more initiatives like this. So I must say that, yes, we need the SME, the women, the participation of the youth in order to make these things work. And one thing that I learned when I go into, I'm from Malaysia, and of course, we've been to Indonesia, Uganda, Fiji, Maldives, and many more. And we're going to Senegal as well, and Bangladesh. So we realized that we need to do a little bit of study of what needed in that country. So because each country, like for example, Uganda, they have massive natural resources, which is not tapped into at all. And of course, there are many poverties, youth without jobs, people are not eating right, the health issues and so forth, sanitation, and yet they have abundance of natural resources, and they import most of their products. So where the private sector comes from? So for us, we have halal in Surinai, whereas in halal, amazing, in 2030, 1/3 of the global population will be, yes, Muslim, but what I'm trying to say is that almost 5 trillion economy trade is in halal products. So today, most halal products come from the north, which is fine, but the south is not really producing anything. Even Malaysia, Indonesia still import 95% of all these ingredients in order to make their own food, and including the African countries. So this is where we, Surinai, for example, come in and tell them what are the process. We give a massive platform, digital, to the government of these countries, and we support with that. Not only we give the technology transfer, and also we empower them with the knowledge how to do it, because traceability is important. It's not about just a religion, but it's about whether there's mercury in your food, food safety and so on and so forth, which is very important in halal. By having those traceability with digital, this is where they can also export and participate in the trade. And not only within themselves, not only within the South-South, but also they can also export to the North. okay, where we South has abundant of resources. I think that's in gist, I don't know how many minutes I have to I pass to my colleagues to reply.
3 minutes.
3 minutes more. Okay, so for us, when we go to a specific country, when we are open to that invitation, and when the government themselves, and of course, like Islamic Development Bank and UNDP are welcoming these initiatives, that give us a massive boost. Because for private sector, it's about jobs. We need more people to come in, more women to participate. But what is the basic thing that people need? The women need someone to take care of the babies, the children. They don't want to be made all the time, but you need education as well. Access to finance rather than borrowing money illegally, and they cannot pay when it's 300% interest in it, for example. So when we come in, we make sure that the government understands this, and we are the one that really work at the ground level, and we're so proud of it, to make sure that we go down and really work with the youth at the ground level, with the people, with the citizen, in order to identify what's their problem, and also we work together because yes, we have to, the revenue is important, but we make a win-win money between us and them. And then this is where it will benefit the government at the end of the day. So when you balance the trade, yes, everybody have to import, and you also export and not relying on importing products only, then at least the balance of the economy is there, and you're creating more opportunities for people, and more manufacturing, more technology will be born in that country. So for halal, we have more research, more sciences, also in trading, in logistic, of course, food, and so on and so forth that need to be produced, not only on, it has to be halal and tayyiban, that's mean it has to be good. So so I must say that. Thank you very much. That's my 2 minutes, I reckon.
Yeah, thank you. No, excellent. Thank you for the comment. And just for this last word, that it's not only about the money. You can do good and earn income. So thank you for reminding us and for supporting the halal industry in Malaysia and Indonesia. Now let me turn to our colleague, Sabah Sobani. Sabah is the director of UNDP International Center for Private Sector in Development. He has been with UNDP for 19 years and led multiple global private sector. But Sabah, my question to you is that how can we bring the private sector into its whole South-South sustainability development triangle cooperation? How can we do that?
The basic formula that the private sector looks at is risk return, right? We talk about the SDGs in two ways. One is an opportunity. We at UNDP, for example, we've been developing these SDG investor maps where we identify investment opportunities per country, whether you look at education, energy, take digital. This is not a resource that you can see online, and it's based and validated on investor sort of perspective. But also we tell the private sector, I spent the whole week across 50 First Lexington at all the law firms talking to a lot of investors. You can also look at it as a risk map, SDGs. Who would have imagined, for example, that a zoonotic health disease will do all these things? I had a meeting yesterday, a session with Accor, all the big luxury tourism hotel. Thankfully, they have recovered 97% for pre-COVID, and it's booming. In climate financing, for example, people don't think about the role of sustainable and luxury tourism, but it's actually a big driver in many countries. And how do we push for that? So risk return is the formula. Second, thanks to DIMA and also the South-South office, really, this is an integral part. South-South cooperation and triangle cooperation is an integral part of commerce cross-border. You see many companies from India, Turkey, but it's not a new concept. My great-grandfather was the Persian customs official on the border of Russia and Persian Empire on the Silk Road. So we used to have South-South cooperation thousands of years ago, and I'm an American sitting in Istanbul, but I feel like my center is sort of on that road. So in that context, what are we looking at? We're looking at 5 areas. One is in the area of investment. While we do the market intelligence, we've gone to Mauritania, looking at green hydrogen, to all these different places. We also identify the kind of investors we're looking at. And it's not you need to look at, for example, we just did a landmark partnership with a private equity firm, which runs the GCF funds. It's called Pegasus, and they're doing digital and solar. So we need to work with people who invest in companies. You know, I think this is one important way because they have a lot of influence. So we're looking at a number of different sectors. For example, nobody realizes, you talk about green hydrogen, there's something called geological hydrogen that was found in Mali. It literally comes out of the earth and makes electricity. It's like a new thing that we should look at. And I have to run to a session on fonio. Fonio is the future of gluten-free for cereals in Kellogg. We have some entrepreneurs, American, Senegalese entrepreneurs who are trying to make fonio the next big gluten-free. So you have to involve these different kinds of investors. The other thing is, of course, with partners, with Islamic development, we have a platform on Islamic financing and impact investing. We've done pioneer transactions. The first social sukuk by a fintech company in Turkey, we're looking at a municipal one. And so we need to replicate these kinds of innovative products that lend itself for this market. On digital and AI, the Minister of Finance of Djibouti came and visited me and said, look, you know, if you look at the map of, if you do a LinkedIn analysis, data scientists is white in Africa. It's like no one. There's so few of them compared to India and all these other countries. So we need a mechanism where we bring people to work on projects of our governments. So we launched what they call the Frontier Tech Fellowship Program with LDC. It's not just a training, it's targeted towards people with masters in computer science that work on real practical problems. We have an AI lab. It's 60% women, people from you know, all these various countries. So that has been a successful sort of initiative. We also have support from also leading corporates like HP and others. So we need to look at these kinds of technology as an enabler and build the capacity of you know, of the next generation, as you mentioned. And I think this is something very important as we move forward, is to look at these nexus of digital with other sorts of things and see how it can enable sectors. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. I think we are running out of time, but just to recap, I think risk return. But how can we, Sadak, how can we circumvent this risk return conundrum? It's not also a very easy thing, because if you just look at risk return, you might not bring private sector on board because in some of our countries, because of the high level of risk. So how can you?
The other thing we have to think about, there's money also in those countries. How do you unlock local money to have skin in the game in terms of, so when we look at risk returns, we have to do two things. Who's embedded, who can do more sustainable, you know, agriculture, who has a holding group in the countries that we're talking about, you know, and not just have them invest outside their own country, because that lowers your risk. The other thing is, yes, there's insurance products, there's what the governments can do, as an example. And there are sectors, for example, that I believe, for example, I do believe investing in luxury, high-end tourism is a way for countries that have a high biodiversity and other sort of things. This is a mechanism by which that can really be able to, you know, work. Now we need to get people who provide concessional financing to see that as something to invest in. So the risk, I think the other point is with the geopolitics of the world, people also are now looking for lowest cost. I give you an example, like I know people who just said the first wheat producers in Congo, it's not coming from you know, Ukraine, Russia. So how do you, local, like food security is now becoming very critical because you cannot have access necessarily to things.
Thank you very much. Now we have our last speaker is online, Tariq Bukuku, Manager International Project Development, Master. Master has been at the forefront of renewable energy in Africa, forging strong regional and international partnerships. Mr. Bukuku, could you share insight from your work with the ISDB or other institutions in terms of fostering South-South and triangular cooperation, please? You have 5 minutes. Okay, if you could put your camera, that will be good, so that we can see you at least.
Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Okay, I don't know what happened with the camera, but okay. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, excellencies. I would like to share in a few minutes the experience that Mazen, the Moroccan Agency for Sustainable Energy, has with the ISDB and the reverse linkage principles. So we are completely aligned with the South-South cooperation principles of the reverse linkage. As Mazen, after developing the solar plan and the wind Moroccan plans in Morocco, look toward Africa, as all Morocco is doing. And we have signed more than 20 memorandums of understanding and other agreements with our African neighbors. And with the ISDB, the relationship is very special and extremely rich. So we had a first agreement in 2019 in order to help the African countries, members of the ISDB, to increase the bankability of their projects. And to what we do is we perform all these studies going from the first resource assessment, due diligences, structuring, technical benchmarkings, design, etc., until the project reach a certain feasibility. And then there is a second phase of feasibility, where all of these elements are even more going into detail. And the idea is that we contribute through expertise, and the ISDB, they bring through the reverse linkage principles a budget that is really interesting for these countries. So this allows, first of all, to reach certain objective of the SDGs, namely the SDG 7 for affordable and clean energy, because we are making sure that the energy uses the best technologies, the most competitive ones, that all the tendering processes are completely transparent, and to attract the best companies in the private sector. So this basically is open for the private sector that will contribute through various channels, the constructors, the bankers, obviously, the engineering companies are all working in this initiative. And there are 11 countries that came just in April to Ouarzazate to extend even more this first agreement that we had with the ISDB to have a much bigger, much more important budget. And these 11 countries opened already discussions. And we have already 3 countries, namely Djibouti, Guinea-Bissau, as well as Niger, that are really ongoing in terms of project. So we are very proud to say that this initiative contributed to launching renewable energy projects that are competitive and that create also local employment. And the idea behind this is always consistent with the reverse linkage philosophy, meaning that it's a transfer of capacity, of return on experience, open discussion with the teams to make sure that at the end of the day, not only will we be able to develop the project, but also it will lead them to have a certain autonomy and to work the private and the public sector, obviously, to develop these projects. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bukuku. This is very inspiring, and the work that we are doing, this is the plug not to ourselves, reverse linkage. We have been having this program for last 4 decades in the Islamic Development Bank. We have had many successes, but we think that we should scale it, working with the UN Office of South-South Cooperation and all the other partners. Looking forward to you to join us into that. And this brings us to the end of our session. It was a very important discussion. So I would like to invite my colleague Dima to just a little bit some final thoughts and wrap up of the session. And I would like to thank you, Shaba, Turkey, Amna, and our panelists for their contribution. Thank you, Dima.
Thank you, Lisa, for this excellent moderation. I mean, This is just to thank everybody for being with us today. I think today's discussion was not only a testament of how important it is to engage and partner with the private sector, given the many advantages they bring to the table to bridge the SDGs, to operationalize the Pact of the Future, and I can go on and go on and go on. The experiences that we have heard today, whether from Egypt, from Saudi Arabia, from Morocco, from Indonesia, from Malaysia, from Sabah also, I mean, all of this was extremely enriching. And it's also for us, even we consider now everybody becoming a partner of this UN Office for South-South Cooperation in terms of also supporting the different instruments that will allow, further expansion of your experiences moving forward. We have heard a lot of good experiences, also ending with the one that Tariq has just shared with us. What I would like to say, because I know that this is one segment, we are going to continue this discussion. This is not the end of it. The interesting part is also the one to follow with what we call the technical level ideas foundry session, which will be moderated by the colleagues and whereby the experiences of the private sector will even be brought forward in terms of how they have been working on South-South cooperation via the work that they are doing. So thank you again. Thank you, Islamic Development Bank. Thank you, all the speakers, and looking forward to the next session that will follow. I don't know whether, they are already online. So we're going to leave this beautiful panel table and become listeners to the coming session. So please, moderators and panelists come forward so we could start the second session. Thank you again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I mean, you online, the moderator is online. I mean, you have the floor.
Yes, I am, Dr. Issa. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. You have the floor. It would be good if you could put your camera since you moderate.
Sure. Once the table is arranged, isn't it? Our agreement is the table to be arranged first, and then we'll
All right.
go on with the show.
We're leaving the table.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Great.
What you need to please? Yeah.
But we need this. We need.
Everyone will be stand up?
No. Be fine in a second.
Oh.
Yeah.